So this evening we'll be exploring doing business in Africa, the challenges that are faced by businesses for cross-border payments. And we have our good people at Verto to talk to us. One of the things I've also planned to do today is to network, and we already started doing that. Apologies for starting a bit late. We're trying to get a good number and also to network. So I believe that we've had a good time chit-chatting and getting to know the people at Verto and meeting fellow business people. I won't take too much of your time, but we'll be starting off with a presentation by Anthony. He's the co-founder and CTO of Verto, and he won't be working alone, but he'll introduce other members of his team. We'll have a panel session later, so I'll do a more proper bio for Anthony. But Anthony, please, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Come on.
Hello.
Yeah, so obviously, thanks for the introduction. I'm here today with my team, a lot of people from London today, some of the guys from Nigeria as well are here. We're going to talk about how to do business in Africa and how to do business actually trading across different continents or across Africa. But before we kick off, we're going to do a quick introduction about Verto. What we do at Verto, just kind of give you a bit of a flavor, and then we move into the panels where everyone will come on stage. There will be some Q&A, any question, please ask a question, and hopefully by the end of the night we have a great time. So I'm going to introduce Pira, who is our founder associate, to lead this conversation.
Thank you, Anthony. So, hi everyone, my name is Pira. I was from Thailand, but I was working with Verto for slightly over a year now. I'm a founder's associate, so what that means is that I help Anthony and our co-founder a lot in high-level strategic projects from business analytics, strategy, and so on. So the purpose of this presentation is obviously to officially introduce Verto to you guys, because some of you guys might have heard about us already, but might not be 100% sure about what we actually do. So we think that it's a good time to actually do this at the start of this whole event, just so that you guys can have a better understanding of our company, our mission, and the stuff that we do. So Verto was actually born out of necessity when our co-founders realized how difficult it is to send money to and from emerging markets, especially if you're an SME or a small business. So our mission is obviously related to that. It is to simplify cross-border payments, especially for businesses based in emerging markets or wants to do something in emerging markets. Nigeria is actually one of our main and first markets, and we are actually based in the UK, but we have our sights set on other emerging markets in Africa too, and in North Africa and the Middle East, such as Kenya, South Africa, the UAE, and so on. I'll pass the time over to Anthony shortly to give you a brief overview of our product.
For probably someone like Kawai and Olumide that's on the panel tonight, the first Verto was done over WhatsApp, right? So we've gone a long way from that. So as you can see, we have like 3 key products. One is collection, which is basically a solution that we give to some of our SMEs clients, some enterprises, ability to be able to collect money anywhere around the world easily. So if you're a Nigerian client, you can literally collect money from clients that are based in UK, US, other countries, and so on. Convert is what most people probably are used to, which is the FX side. So that's basically where, if you need to convert between any currencies, you can use this. And I think a lot of people probably know the effects of Nigerian naira going to dollar, but we do more than that. We literally have about 51 currencies on the platform where you can convert between them easily. And what that does is that we provide what we call liquidity, because most of the problem is where can you get the effects from, and that's what we do. And we do that with speed, good pricing, and obviously the settlement that happens after that. And payment is the last one. So payment is basically the holy grail of something that we never thought of. So day one of Verto was just FX. How can we provide FX for people? Then you realize that a lot of people, when they send you money, you have to send it back to them. And the question is, oh, can you not just send it to someone else for me? That's where the payment case was came out of necessity as a product that actually was complementary. But today, Verto is not an FX company anymore. We actually cross-border payments with FX embedded. And that's what we hope to share with you today and how we do that.
So I'll be going into a deeper dive of some of our products, and I think it makes sense to start from the beginning of the cross-border payments chain, which is collecting money or receiving money. So most of our clients, if they're within a risk appetite, we could offer them what we call a Verto global account. So what that does is that it allows a business on Verto to actually collect money from your clients, your suppliers, your consultants, and so on. So what we mean by local payments is that if you are a consultant based in the UK and your client wants to pay you pounds, you can do that using Verto's instant payment rails. So something like the NIP in Nigeria, we have in the UK called faster payments. So the consultant's client could actually pay the consultant instantly in British pounds, for example. But what if the consultant has a client in the US? That's fine. So as long as the client in the US can send money to the UK, the consultant using Verto's global accounts could still receive that money through the international SWIFT wire. So we would be giving you like an IBAN or local account details if that is applicable for that currency. So for local accounts, so basically like domestic payments and stuff, we support that in the British pound, the US dollar, and also the euro as well. So on the FX side, Anthony mentioned that we support 51 currencies. It's actually 50 because of the Russian ruble, unfortunately. But basically, we actually offer something pretty unique over here that other providers might not do, which is that we don't really have a base currency in Verto. You can literally convert Naira to Kenyan shilling, Naira to Ghanaian cedi, and so on. You don't really have to do Naira to dollar and dollars to Kenyan shilling, because that's inefficient, right? Why not just do it at one go? So in this example, a client maybe wants to send £5,000 to the UK. If the client chooses the spot FX, that means that the client wants to send payments maybe immediately, and we'll show them the best available rate right now. So I know it's a bit small, but it says that maybe £1 is about 819 Naira. So if you're happy with that rate, you can click send now, put in your beneficiary details, and your payments will be processed as soon as you send us the 4 million Naira. But what if you're not happy with 819? What if you want to send it at 815 instead? So if you actually have some leeway in terms of time, you can actually put that rate and amount on the Verto currency exchange marketplace. In terms of P2P, it's peer-to-peer, but not in the sense that it's between two individuals. It's actually between two onboarded and verified Verto customers. So just a reminder, we only service businesses here. So you put the amount and the rate that you want, maybe 815, and once you post it on the marketplace, if someone wants to buy Naira at that rate, he or she can accept the trade on the marketplace. And once both parties send in the money to Verto, and Verto recognizes it, we will then release the corresponding funds to both parties. So in terms of trust, this actually solves a big issue here in emerging markets, and it minimizes the rate of default because Verto is the clearinghouse in the middle. We're able to pay in up to 190 countries and territories, mainly because most bank accounts around the world support US dollars, pounds, and euros, and our banking partners in the UK are able to send these kind of wires to most bank accounts around the world. So since we have many banking providers as well, it's actually very beneficial for emerging market businesses because we're able to route your payment using the best available provider. If someone is on Verto and their client is also on Verto, you could actually do what we call a wallet-to-wallet payment, where it's actually the client sending money from their virtual wallet to another client's virtual wallet. That's instant, that's 24/7, and it's available at your fingertips because it's literally moving money between our own bank accounts. And so we don't really have to worry about us being closed on the weekends, like the banks. So everything I talked about involving the cross-border payments chain, you could do all that with our very own Verto API as well. So if you have an army of developers, or if you are feeling more tech savvy, you could contact one of our VPs here, Diana, or the Verto sales team via our website. So in terms of infrastructure, it's important that we're able to offer cross-border payment infrastructure. And we are very big on infrastructure, mainly because we want to stay compliant yet efficient at the same time. So in terms of compliance, we want to make sure that in every market that we work in, we're actually working with a compliant and regulated entity, which is usually a local banking partner. So if we're able to connect all these local banking partners in each market that we operate in, everything becomes a domestic payment. And that's what we call a global local payment experience. So if you want to send pounds again, and even if you're based in Nigeria, Thailand, Ghana, and so on, it's not a SWIFT payment or an international wire anymore. It's actually the UK's version of NIP, which is faster payments. It's going to be an instant payment because we can send that pounds from our pound account in the UK, even if our clients are based in another country. So a global local payment experience is the end goal that we want to achieve, and we are trying to start with that vision in emerging markets. So Anthony will talk you through some of the interesting partnerships that we have, and also transition into the panel as well.
Thanks, Pira. So to do everything that Pira just went through, one of the key elements of it is we want to do it in the most compliant way. So some of you that are customer of Verto, you will know today that you probably go through rigorous onboarding, question back and forth, just to make sure that we know who you are as a client, we capture the right data and so on, so that when you actually send your money, it goes to where it needs to go. So to do that, some part of that is we have to build now compliance in our solution. And some of these are the partners that we use called Comply Advantage, Smart ID, and it's probably like 10 of our partners that I'm not showing on this slide. Also, we obviously partner with a lot of banks. So there's 2 banks showing here, Clearbank and Bank Circle. They're just one of our key banks that we work with to provide some of the solution. And the idea is that we need to continuously build more experience. For you guys to do that, we have to actually partner with a lot more banking partners locally in Nigeria, in any countries that we go to, so you have a real instant experience when it comes to payments. And also we have our own in-house like tech company, we call them Locus 9. They literally are guys, machines, guys that are obviously working in the same division, but they are building solutions on a daily basis. So as a customer, when you get any problem, please just feedback to us. Because the more we get back the feedback, the more we can actually solve the problem. A lot of times we're guessing, okay, this is what the client wants, we build a solution, but there's no way it's going to be 100%. So we have in-house team that actually can solve the problem. And as you can see, we have local partners in Nigeria as well, and in Africa, the likes of FCMB, UBA, and so on. While we're doing this again, we do this in a way that your money is secured. So how we make sure that is the case is we want it to be regulated in every country that we're in. In the UK, we are regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority called the FCA, with a license called e-money license, electronic money institute. So what it does is that it gives us the power to almost act like a bank without being a bank. And that's what we're able to offer, the kind of solution that we offer today. And what we want to do is in every other country that we're going to, be it in Nigeria, in Kenya, in South Africa, in Egypt, in UAE, we're going to be trying to get similar license or to try and be compliant so we can offer that global local solution that people talked about. And lastly, just going to see the kind of people that have been using Verto today. We probably have a handful of some of the clients. Some of these guys, you know them, that are from Nigeria, you know MTN, Musk. We intentionally didn't bring in the likes of Bluechip and Kawai on the screen because they're going to be on the stage today. So that's why it's the case. Also, we're venture backed, so that means that we are not trying to just bootstrap our way into being successful. We have some institutions that trust what we're doing, and they obviously want us to be successful. And this is why we're able to do this. So some of these companies are backed up is what you see on the screen. So as a company, we are here to solve a global problem, but we want to start with Africa. We want to start with Nigeria, and we want to today tell you how we're doing that. So I'm going to transit from this screen to the next screen, which is basically a few background on the founders. Ola is unfortunately is not here today. He's in the UK, busy running the business. He's an ex-banker, so a lot of experience when it comes to how you move money around. The true story is actually that Verto was started over a game of poker. So I've known Ola probably 15 years now. Maybe 9 years ago, we were talking over a game of poker that we usually have with some of our friends. And he told me, oh, by the way, I'm doing some remittance business that I get people to move money from UK to Nigeria. I was like, okay, how does it work? He said, what's happening to the number? I said, what's happening? Like, can you pay my auntie? Sending the money in pounds. My auntie got the money. I was like, okay, I don't know what you're doing. Go ahead. I think another 2 weeks later, we met again. I was like, so what are you doing again? I said, oh, by the way, some people actually ask me a question, can you help me make payments out of Nigeria? Okay, why is there a problem? I don't know, it's not a problem, but it's a problem. One of those people happened to be Olumide Soyombo. And it wasn't a normal payment, it wasn't like, let me send money to my auntie in London. It was, I need to pay international businesses, I want to pay Microsoft, Oracle, and so on. And for me, it was like, why is there a problem? Like, we have a bank in Nigeria, why are they not doing it? And that was literally why Verto started. I was about to start my MBA, quit banking as well, and it was literally a project I took as my MBA, first project. Let's find out what's going on. And then you realize that this is a bigger problem than just Olumide trying to pay Oracle. And that's how Verto started. So obviously, we've been growing for the last 4 years as a company. The team has gone from probably 15 this year to about 90 something, which is a lot of people in a year. We brought in some talented people, some of them are here. And Tim is basically our CEO who's got massive experience within the same space. He works for a company called WordFirst, who is a very successful company, doing almost what we're doing, but on the hedging side, working with the likes of Amazon into the UK and so on. So the point of this slide is to show you that we know what we're doing and we're here to actually solve the problem. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the guests today that are going to basically tell you how to do your business in Africa and in Nigeria.
Thanks, Anthony. Like Anthony mentioned, we're going to be having a panel tonight, and I'll just like to introduce the people on the panel. First off, we have Akinbo Akin-Olugbade. Yeah. I'm Yoruba, I don't know why I'm struggling with that. He's the managing director of Kawai Technologies. He has successfully led the supply chain management company to become one of West Africa's largest dealing company with an array of blue-chip Nigerian firms and international players, operating both home and abroad. He was previously the director of operations for Bluechip, one of Nigeria's largest fertilizer companies. Prior to this, he also worked in the UK with Nitro Ventures, a venture capital firm, for 3 years, and he successfully lends his knowledge and experience to startups in Nigeria and parts of West Africa. Please let's welcome Akinbo to the stage. Yes, you didn't know that CV was for you. All right. Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Akinbo. Next up, we have Olumide Soyombo. He's a tech entrepreneur, a business development strategist, and angel investor. He has close to 2 decades multi-sectoral experience, building companies, managing businesses, while investing in high-impact projects and startup positions. So we're in safe hands, and a lot of startup experts here. With position lending his voice to valuable players within Africa and the startup space. Please, a round of applause for Olumide as he takes the stage. Thank you. We also have Anthony. We've met him, but just a little bit of background about who Anthony is. He has 14 years experience in payments and banking, including leading the product and tech function of Verto, like he introduced. Anthony is also responsible for ensuring that Verto is able to process billions of dollars of payments each year and provide businesses with solutions which help them to save money, automate payments, process, and grow. Please a round of applause for Anthony. Thank you. And to anchor this session and to moderate the panel conversation, we'll have Kofoworola Agbaje. She's a senior investment associate at Quona Capital, focused on sub-Saharan Africa, MENA, and cross-border investments. Kofoworola works on regional sourcing and due diligence in investment opportunities, as well as supporting Quona in its portfolio companies on operational projects and research. In addition, she provides support on external exits and recently assisted Tiaxa's exits to Bemobi in 2021. Please a round of applause for Kofoworola Agbaje. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to make this as informal as possible. So if you have a question for the panelists, feel free to just, as possible, put your hands up and I'll make sure I get to you.
Yeah, I run a company called Kawai Technologies. We're a supply chain management company. What that means is we source materials and products from around the world for our clients, which are typically infrastructure companies. So we deal with the likes of Petersberger, Applenet, AFP, Total, and those sorts of companies. This runs from everything from pipelines down to chairs, auditorium chairs, seating, glass facades. A lot of the big buildings you've seen around Lagos and Abuja and elsewhere, the glass comes from companies like ours, or from our company actually. So yeah, that's it.
I already know what Verto does.
Tell us again.
But if there is one line or something you want the audience to leave today with about Verto, what would it be?
If you need to move your money from A to B, we are the guys.
And Olumide.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Olumide Soyombo. I'm wearing two hats, actually. So I'm a customer of Verto, but I'm also an investor in Verto. I guess that brings some unique insights. So I run a company called Bluechip Technologies that provides systems integrator firm that builds out solutions for most of the banks and telcos. We work with many of the large OEMs, so original equipment manufacturers like Oracle, Microsoft, Dell, and the likes. And we have to pay them from time to time. And that's obviously how Verto becomes very useful. Bluechip is in 5 African countries and Ireland. And I also run a seed fund called Quona Capital back in Innovators out of Africa.
So I think the first thing we would ask or question is, one of the things Anthony said was we were wondering why would anyone have a problem moving money from one country to another. So we'll kind of move it back to specifically macro trends in Africa in general. So I think there was a McKinsey report recently that said one of the factors that shapes the outlook of e-payments in Africa is payments infrastructure. So someone that started using WhatsApp to transfer money, what would you say has been the biggest driver of innovation in payments infrastructure in Africa? If you can, as much as possible, speak to your experience as someone that has a business in Nigeria. That would be useful.
Okay, and I think I'll talk about it generally, and then obviously as it relates to kind of cross-border payments that Verto does. But in essence, right, what are fintechs trying to do? The fintechs that we're seeing in ecosystems like ours and in Africa generally, is they're taking core functions of the bank, right, unbundling it and trying to do it better. So, for example, savings, which is a core function of a bank, you'll find a fintech take that function, unbundle it, and try and do it better, neatly and faster. Same with loans. Banks are supposed to give loans, but then the banks will rather give loans to selling people or selling wholesale or corporate banking clients. Fintech will take that loan function and unbundle it, use data to start lending, like some of the fintechs in our market. Same with Same with payments, right? Some of the banks are very comfortable with get FX allocations from CBN, sell through from M or selling windows, and many needs of the SMEs are not met, right? Because they rather focus on high value clients. I make a quick turnaround and get things on their bottom line. So a company again like Verto will take some of those core functions and try and provide those cross-border payments for customers and build infrastructure to do that. And where we are seeing is as the macro trends and the demographic changes in our market, right? We're having a digital first ecosystem building, right? We're having folks who grew up with a laptop. I remember the first time I saw it, I used the internet was 95 or 1996. But you have folks today who come into the working class and they were born digital. Those folks are not going to walk into a bank to do anything. And they're going to be digital first, including how they make payments.
Okay, and Akinbo, as someone specifically, you mentioned the kind of business you do and how traditional some of your suppliers, but also the products you supply are. How have you been able to, one, integrate payments infrastructure to what some people might consider traditional business? And how has that evolved over time?
I'll first add to what Olumide said, in that part of the problem, well, there are two sides to that problem. One was regulatory. A lot of countries, especially in emerging markets, are trying to protect their currencies from devaluation. And whether rightly or wrongly, they do this by making it a little bit restrictive to change their currencies into international currencies. And especially as Nigerians, this is one thing that we're all very aware of, because the central bank believes that the more naira flows into dollars or euros or pounds, the worse of our currency will be, which is right to an extent. The other side of it is the banks, and he touched on this a little bit. The banks, it costs them the same amount of money and resources to chase a 1 billion naira account, whether it's for a loan or just transaction volume, as it does to chase an account that's 100,000 naira. So of course, they're going to put all the efforts into the 1 billion naira accounts. And what this does is leaves a huge gap, a huge underserved gap in the market. And this is what companies like Verto are trying to address. Enable payments for as many companies as possible in the market. Now, for a company like Kawai, we were caught in the middle of this, both the regulatory side and also the market, the banking side. We are making payments on a daily basis to companies all around the world: Germany, the UK, America, India, China, Netherlands, Denmark, wherever it is. Trust me, we paid something there. And in the old days, it was fairly straightforward. You go to the bank and you make your transfers, and you open your phone ends and this and that. But it was cumbersome, but it was possible. But over the years, it's become increasingly difficult to make those sorts of payments. I'm sure a lot of you have seen emails in the last few months from your banks telling you, oh, you can now make $100 a month payments a month. That's not going to cover your lunch, on an international trip. Talk less of paying a supplier, I don't know, $30,000 or whatever the amount is for you. So for us, actually, funny enough, it stems back to an argument Olumide and I were having earlier about who was the first Verto customer. Whether it was him or us. Anyway, Anthony has settled it. Olumide was first. We were second. But Verto came in really handy. And it's been for us now 3 or 4 years, and we use Verto pretty much daily. I mean, even this morning I was coming, I got a bunch of emails from Verto compliance asking us to clarify some transactions. That's one of the things I like about Verto. They're doing everything by the book. So they will check everything. Upload your invoices, they make the payment. They might need 1 or 2 clarifications if they don't understand your payment. And provided you're doing business properly, you should be able to answer those questions, which of course we can always answer. And they've been really good at making those payments for us. It's made our operations a lot more seamless, a lot more efficient, because we no longer have to spend time. And I remember the days when you're dealing with BBC, and you're doing a transfer, and then you're chasing the BDC because the transfer hasn't landed, and then they tell you, oh, but it's my brother is the one that's doing the thing. He's going to go on the train and get to the bank and then do that, and all sorts of stories, and you don't have that with Verto. And one thing I love as well, which they might not realize, is you don't have to talk to anybody. You literally log in, the rate's there, you put in the amount you're transferring, the currency you're transferring, your supplier details, IBAN, SWIFT code, done. I don't need to call Anthony, I don't need to call Bob, I don't need to call anyone. You click enter, you do your transfer in Naira, done. Within a few hours, transfer is done, you get an email confirmation. And that was one of the reasons we also invested in Verto. I'm still waiting for you.
I'm still waiting about it.
I think I have too many credits.
So I was going to kind of say a question for later. It's probably the juiciest. And I'm sure a lot of people are also wondering, so you touched on it a bit, but I think some of the problems that not just, as you mentioned, Nigeria or Naira or FX in Nigeria, but more looking at Africa is, again, governments as much as trying to control it. So as someone that constantly has to make payments abroad, and I will say in the last 18 months, there have been constant depreciation in not just Naira, but other currencies. How would you, because kind of going back to the subject of the conference, scaling business, and how would you try to manage that, and how is not just Verto, but your operations changed as you try to manage both the liquidity issue, but because even if Naira was 1,000, you might not even get access to it. So how do you manage both the liquidity issue, but your ability to maintain business as usual?
One of the major challenges for us is the foreign exchange rate, and we've handled it half of it is the length of time in the market. So we've dealt with some suppliers for 10 years now. So we do have some leeway in terms of payment. So it's not everyone we need to pay now. So for some clients, that means we can make an order now. It's going to go into production. It'll be delivered in a month to the shipping line. And so that gives us 1 month to make a payment. With others, we have just running credit lines. So there's some suppliers that, we pay them every couple of months and we just have a permanent credit line up to a certain amount. So when you balance those with then also being able to buy currency from Verto, it's given us a nice balance. I will say, and we did talk about it earlier, you're always one bad move away from oblivion in Nigeria. But so far we've been able to just keep a nice balance.
The Olumide, same question.
Yeah, I think I wish I had the same credit line that Akinbo had. But you see, I was talking to my salespeople. Bluechip today is will probably cross north of $70 million in revenue this year. So you think about the number of payments we have to make to suppliers, right? So in essence, what happens is you're working for a bank or a telco who wants to buy some maybe Oracle licenses, Microsoft licenses. They go through us. So you pay me, the bank pays me, or the customer pays me, and then I pay the OEM, take my margin up. And imagine how hard it is to price, right? So I think in the last couple of weeks, normally quotes are valid for 30 days, 60 days. Now quotes are valid for 1 hour. Like the rate is going to change. I know it's funny how it works because everybody acts like they're not in the same country with you. Like you know what's happening in the market, right? And we've taken a position, and with the regulatory position also, you can't quote. And CBN says businesses have to quote in Naira, right? And deal in Naira. You don't quote it. So we've taken a position to quote in Naira and have another table with the dollar reference. And it's how do you then manage those situations, and it affects the pricing even finally to the end customer. So we found that we have to, in some instances, to maintain that relationship, take some of those losses on board, or augment that with some of the services we provide. So you're not just trading; you're also providing services and focus on our margins of the services that we provide, as opposed to the core item we are trading.
So I think my next question, based on what you just said before, Anthony, how is it going to make sure you don't have to change your code every hour? No, I'm kidding. You don't have to answer that.
No, I was going to say that that problem you face now, imagine what we face with 1,000 clients, right? So you have to do that for your client, but at the same time, we need to do it for everyone else that need to come to Verto to get the pricing. And every time they get the pricing, they want it to be like 48 hours that will pay you tomorrow or next day. And that's where our solution comes in, because we cannot take the losses, or we can't put a price in place that we cannot fulfill. And every time we give a price, we always make sure that you get your money in time, next day, same minute. So that is a good problem. Hello. So that's literally the real problem of FX, especially in Africa today. No matter how good the solution is, you cannot control the FX side of it. So a company like Verto, we're here to hopefully make your life easier so that Olumide won't have to be doing that. It can actually come on Verto and get a price that is guaranteed, and then hopefully extend that to his customer. And basically that is the solution that we're offering for most of our clients.
So, apart from liquidity, because there's a lot that Verto does, we at Akinbo and Olumide, apart from liquidity, there are other parts of your business that you need to think about that are FX related. So this might be specific payments to other countries, it might be the time it gets there, it might be how quickly. How does that currently, given the external pressure from regulator and the liquidity, how does that change how you plan for the other aspects of paying businesses?
I think we were talking earlier, and we're talking about how Nigeria essentially is a very low trust society, right? But when it deals with how FX and currency exchange works, there seems to be some level of trust that always then just happens. Like how many people in this room have a Malam guy or an FX guy, right? And some people have never even seen those faces before, but they just deal based on that trust. But now imagine when that trust is a platform, right, as opposed to an individual. I know of certain companies that have been blacklisted for working with certain foreign suppliers because they bought dollars or got dollars from the wrong source. I know someone has even gone to jail, right? So sometimes some people say, hey, I have dollars at it's 35 naira less than what the market rate is. Like, why you don't like my face? You don't like my face that much. Why are you offering me? Why are you offering me that? And I'm sure we've seen the news about so many people with $20 million looking for X percent or Y percent. And it's really where platforms like Verto then tend to differentiate themselves versus an FCA regulated entity and is selling trust to say that your money we have quoted this rate to you, you're sure of the source of the funds. And for me, even if it's 2 naira more expensive, 3 naira more expensive, which most times not, I'm ready to pay for that comfort. And you also get validation when the supplier that you're paying says, I can only accept money if you send money from Verto. I'm not going to accept money from Akinbo Akin-Olugbade on your behalf, which is what has always happened in the past. So once it's from Verto, it's recognized, they know they can check it at FCA regulator and see. It gives us some comfort when dealing with suppliers.
So on the regulatory side, this is one of the reasons why I like Verto, and I think the gentleman from Taiwan touched on it, that it's global local. So my payments to Verto are all Naira based. So I'm not technically, as regulatory issues go, I'm not doing an international transaction with Verto here in Nigeria. I'm doing a local transfer. And then on the other side, they're then doing the international transfer. So everyone is fine, more or less, within the regulatory boundaries of the country they're dealing in. And it seems like a simple thing, but it's really big. It means I'm then comfortable to transact, and I can go about my business without worrying about being blacklisted by the central bank or anything of that nature. I'll tell you a very quick story about why I doubled down on using Verto, and this was 3 or 4 years ago. I had enough. And I was making a payment to one of the top 100 companies in Germany, a huge, really huge company. And I get a call from one of their finance heads, and he's like, yeah, we received the payment you made. I can't remember, it was 20 or 30,000 euros, something like that. And he said, then a few days later, someone called, and then he said his mother was sick. that he made the payment back. And we didn't know what to do. We first had to figure out which payment it was. Then it turned out it was a Kawai payment. And so the guy kept calling that his mother was dying in the hospital. So he just sent the money back. So you still owe us, 20,000. Long and short, of course, we fiercely, I'm calling the man up. It's like, what are you talking about? Can you imagine? They called me from Germany that somebody's mother was sick. He said, that his brother, something, the brother's mother was sick. So it's not your mother, a different brother's mother was sick, and so he needed that money urgently, and that was the quickest money he could get. Long and short, it was a whole long story. That was the last time I did a transaction with a man. It is safer, it is more straightforward, it is more legal, Verto ticks all the boxes. There's no need to transact in that manner anymore, especially when you're doing international business. It's not worth. The only luck we had in that situation is that we had such a long-standing reputation with that company. If not, I'm sure they'd never have taken our calls again.
And just touching on what you just said about you trying to stay within the regulatory line, because it's important for you, especially in Nigeria, where every day the CBN governor either blasts a company or prevents other banks from transacting with them. So I want Anthony to touch on specifically how you've been able to achieve the global logo that Pira mentioned, and specifically for Akinbo and Olumide, and I'll say this question again just after Anthony has been able to answer. How important has that been for your business, not just for the suppliers, but I'm assuming you get audited, etc. as a business in Nigeria. How important has that been?
So to actually achieve a global local, it means that you want to be compliant almost every single places that you work at. So for Verto, one of the key things that we do is whenever we go into new markets, we are the number one, find the local partners that are actually doing exactly what they should be doing from a legal and regulatory point of view. So that means they're complying with the local regulators. If they need to move money, they're doing exactly what they need to do. And that is not an easy job, because if you're a partner, why do we not partner with Verto? Because you already solved the problem locally. So you have to provide some form of synergies where it's a win-win. On top of that, because we obviously want to establish ourselves locally, so we always want to be compliant where either we get regulated locally or we form some form of like solutions that allow us to operate within that framework. So for example, in the UK, what we did straight away was, before even started trading Olumide over WhatsApp, we applied for a license. Back then it was an API license, which allows us to literally be able to make payments. It cannot get anything more than that, but it was literally legalized way of doing the same thing. We didn't have to offer any bank account or anything to anyone. So now today in the UK, we have what we call electronic money license that allows us to almost act like a bank without being a bank. The reason for all of these licenses is because we wanted to be making it difficult for ourselves to literally transact. Is we want to make sure that it's legal. So to give people like Akinbo that comfort, knowing that every time you send money, no one's going to knock on your door or call you tomorrow and say, yeah, you owe my money, someone is sick. So to really, the point there is that we are today in about 5 local countries. Out of those 5, we have licenses in the UK. The other 4, we work with local partners. In some cases in Nigeria, we work with the local bank. We partner with those banks. We're not just providing, becoming one of their clients where they give us a service of making payments. We go deeper than that, which is how can we help you do your job or what you're not doing well, and it becomes like a very good synergy. So it's a win-win again. And part of the getting license isn't just about we build this technology, we have all of this stuff. You have to show evidence that you have a team, you have compliance, you have technology that's actually working. Also, who are the founders, who are the management? Do they understand what they're doing? So there's a lot that goes behind even just obtaining license. So it seems very simple. We want to make it simple for you guys, but ultimately it's actually not simple.
And then Olumide and Akinbo, how important is staying within the regulation lines and being able to do the global local payments mean for you? Again, outside Nigerian government, but also working with suppliers or the other sides of your business, how important does that mean?
What's nice is, because, especially with Verto, because everything is automated, At the end of every transaction, you get a trade slip. So when we're doing our audits with FIRS, well, first of all, our internal audits every year for audited financial accounts, and then secondly, again, when we're doing our FIRS audits, it's very clear what payments are for. Because you've got a transaction slip, it shows the amount you've paid, it shows who the money's going for. So we've never had an issue either with our internal auditors with our external auditors or with the FIRS in terms of our payments to Verto. You contrast that with, the guy with his mother. There's no payment slip. There's no, there's nothing. There's a WhatsApp message. I'd rather not go back to those times.
Yeah, I think if there's anything I would add would be, it also takes away the opacity that's involved with rate discovery, right? Imagine a guy in your finance team who is highly motivated to not to be dishonest, and you have a lot of them in many organizations. You find that they find an off-the-shelf vendor, man, or trade, right, and say, hey, this guy is quoting us 700 naira, right? But meanwhile, the guy is telling him that don't worry, bring this trade, and there's 2 naira on top for you, or it takes away that opacity that you don't want to see, because on Verto you can see the rate, it's referenceable, you can go back to it, and there's like Akinbo said, there's a slip. So it takes away the concern for any executive that something wrong is happening in your organization. And especially when you work with global firms, you're also responsible for setting compliance standards, right, that we can go afoul of. And then if not, they have the FCPA over you. So we also have to take extra care, making sure that our people are dealing with registered and regulated entities to avoid situations, like I said, where this kind of opportunities for fraud or lack of price discovery happens.
I think there's a question.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add one more thing to that? He's raised a very good point. Also internally, not only do you have more confidence that none of your staff are doing anything funny, but additionally, there's a business email compromise, which is fairly common nowadays, and hush puppy anyone. But it also means, so when my accountant's doing our payments, all the payments are going to Verto. So there's no opportunity to change anything because the supplier payments are already uploaded on Verto. So all the accountant can do is, you're paying this person X amount in dollars, in euros, in pounds, in yen, whatever. And then every last one of those payments is going to Verto. So you can't change the destination for the payments. That brings a lot of confidence internally for our operations.
And unfortunately, one of the people you were complaining about, that's the man, and that's what I do. So I run a license bureau de change, in addition to.
But you're licensed, so you're not the same.
Okay. So you guys are doing really, really well. I've been with Verto for a couple of months now. It's a good experience. So I really want you to elaborate a little bit more on the CBN side, because I worry slightly for you guys. Yes, I worry slightly for you guys. I hope you have a plan, to, get to work out something with CBN. You know how those guys can be. They could just start hammering people and all that. And if they want to drill down, so what you're doing, it might be the way you coined it, bank local, whatever, if they get to know what is going on behind, you guys might be a little bit exposed. So I don't know whether you have any plans to, have a formal relationship with CBN.
So basically, like I said earlier, whenever we're in any country, we don't try to do anything on the fly, behind the scene. Let's see if they don't catch us until they catch us. Right? Because that's what most people do. And we've been around for 4 years. I can guarantee you'll be around for many more years. Now, to answer your question on CBN, there is no direct license that you can get for cross-border payments in Nigeria today. So from day one, we've gone through that route. There's nothing available. We don't process payment locally, so we're not gonna get a PSP license. We are not in remittance, so we cannot get an MTO license. We're not a BTC. We're not trying to move money for the BTA or for traveling, so we're not gonna get a BTC license. Now, what we do is we consult with legal opinions for people that are in the know. They look at the business, they see what we're doing, they consult with CBN, they say, this is what these guys are doing, anything that you're not comfortable with. And the answer is, of course, there's nothing clear, but they're not licensed, there's no license you can get. If you work within a framework where it makes sense, we are good to go. So one of the things that we do is we actually supply dollar into the country to actually solve the problem. The main reason why we are here today, we're actually solving it by helping CBN as well. So we're not just trying to get people to send money to their suppliers in China. We have people that need to do IMA window from A to actually sending the line to the country to fulfill the trade. So ultimately, like when there's a license, and we hope that we'll be very soon, we'll be the first to get that. Until then, like we literally are consulting.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. You just touched on something as well. It's part of the problem CBN has in Nigeria is people taking Nigerian dollars and buying those Nigerian dollars and pushing the value of the naira down. Because the currency that they're trading is not in Nigeria, you don't necessarily have that same pressure on the naira. I don't know if I'm correct so far. So I can understand what they're saying. It's not the same sort of problem. You're not impacting the naira in the same way because the foreign currency is not part of our reserves that's being traded. If that makes sense.
Any other question from the audience?
Olumide spoke earlier about the volatility in the FX market, and now that he has to give his invoices in with an hour tenor. I wonder, are there any plans for Verto to offer sort of FX hedges or sort of FX future products so that businesses who need to make payments, like Akinbo's, maybe in 2 months' time, can hedge away that risk, that FX risk?
We do have a roadmap. It's not something that we want to do today because there's a lot of risk. So the risk of literally taking away the risk of having to quote every hour, we put on ourselves. So there are a lot of things we have to put in place. What we do instead is on certain clients today, we actually give them what we call advanced liquidity. It's not really an urgent, but it's like, hey, we can give you this currency that you want that you can hopefully pay us in about a week or 2 or 3, and that's priced accordingly. And in a week or 2 or 3, you deliver the same currency or the opposite currency back using Verto, and we put some interest on that. So in a way, if you know that okay, every month you need to pay your suppliers $5 million somewhere, and you get a $5 million in advance, obviously it costs money, whilst you just do your trade. You don't have to worry about if FX goes off today or tomorrow or next week. And that is the solution today. But to answer your question, hopefully in the future we offer some form of an hedging solution. But a lot of companies have done in the past, they haven't survived because you're taking every single business.
You also have the global account, which means technically for a business, if you can foresee payments, 2-3 weeks out, you can change the money now and hold it to one of the global accounts with Verto, and then when you actually want to make the payment, then the payment will go. So you can, as much as possible, buy yourself a window when you're sure how much you've changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So
my exit.
Yeah.
I just saw your customer.
Exactly. So we have a wallet solution that we didn't really describe it. So wallet is where we can hold your fund for you because of our license in the UK. So if you are aware of a certain demand on your flow in a month or 2, you can actually start depositing money, exchanging money into this wallet that you can use anytime in the future. And that's where it's about global account. Some of our clients are actually eligible for what you call either a local bank account or a multi-currency account. What that means is if you have suppliers that are paying you across the border, you actually can get paid. You don't need to get money converted to naira, so they can pay you into your wallet that is your account, and you can then use that fund in the future for your own effects. So you know we actually save money. You don't need to convert with Verto. You don't need to have to worry about currency being depreciated and so on.
Any other questions from the audience?
Think about alternative payment systems that have been built on the continent. So I saw in an article today or yesterday that the first PAPS transaction happened. So should we think about that intra-Africa payment solution as complementary or competitive to Verto?
It's excited about because if anything, it's our local SWIFT payment. So for guys that don't know what SWIFT is basically the way most dollars are moved around the world between the banks. And the only guys that have access to it are the big banks. Even some of our Nigerian banks, they don't have access to SWIFT. They have to, they have to work with a correspondent bank that are actually big banks. So perhaps it's going to solve that hopefully if all the nations in Africa actually opt into that solution. So just to explain what it does, if you are, let's say, a business in Nigeria and Nigeria is one of the countries that opt into PAPS, it means your local bank can literally send money on your behalf to, let's say, Ghana in real time because the settlement is being done by the central bank. So central bank every day they'll ask you for the minimum amount from the bank that you have as deposit. And whenever you send your Naira, the deposit in Ghana see the stretch away because similar bank in Ghana is doing the same thing. So ultimately they're solving that problem. So for Verto, we will tap into that solution. So when we say we build a global solution, we will try to do a member of PAPS. Today, PAPS is only available for banks. We already engaged with them, we have conversation with them. We had some events in the UK a few months ago where they actually partner as well. So we are tapping into the ecosystem of what's happening. So it will be complementary rather than another competition.
Okay, thanks for that. The other question I had was on, I know you only operate on a B2B basis, but many financial services companies in Nigeria have clients that are perhaps in need of for investment purposes. Do you have any structures that can perhaps cater?
The good news is that we actually built a solution that can work for anyone. We chose to do B2B. And one of the main reasons is about compliance. We talk about when you do a payment, you have an invoice that can be tracked, the source of fund. Why are you sending this money? So if anything happens in the future, can you quickly resolve that problem? That's why we do B2B. For a B2C, like I can't tell you who's paying money to your normal bank account. Is your uncle, your auntie, what's the source of fund of them? It becomes a lot of layers of problems. But for people that are late, if you want to do investment and want to buy bonding, euro bond and so on, we don't today serve the individuals. But we have businesses that users that kind of do the same kind of service, and that's where we want to power those other guys. We want to be the infrastructure. Would that change in the future? Never know. But today, it's not something that we want to touch because it just makes the solution a lot more efficient. As we grow, as we become more comfortable, as we get more licensed and so on, we potentially will extend that to individuals.
Any other questions from the audience? I think we've spoken a bit about compliance, and one of the things everyone like Verto is how much paperwork they allow you, they make you do in order to use the platform. As a business that is based in Nigeria and that has to transact with people abroad, has using Verto changed your internal compliance? Has it changed kind of suppliers you work with because you have to change, or you have to provide a lot more documentation?
I think we spoke about this earlier. The level of, like for example, you're sending money to a foreign supplier, and then like I said, they're saying Akinbo or some funny name, right? Then it raises flags, and then they tell you to then explain what's your relationship between the sender. I know many people are posting those emails. What's the relationship between yourself and the sender of funds? And then you now have to go back and then explain. It just creates meanwhile invoice days, accounting, and so on. So I think the compliance, the level of KYC that's required in Verto ends up being a blessing, because you can then show proof. They can see Verto is licensed. They can see there's an e-money provider. So it solves that problem. So there are customers today that we have that once they see Verto FX and they see the payment reference is for a Bluechip transaction, they accept it and apply it to our accounts. So I don't have that several back and forth.
I think for us it's much the same. It's made a lot of our suppliers much more comfortable. We haven't had to change suppliers. However, it has helped with our internal processes, because I mean, with the best will in the world, you might forget to file an invoice, or they just haven't gotten around to it. But because we're using Verto, you can't forget, because Verto can ask you for an invoice at any time. So every single transaction needs to be backed up by the correct people. So it's actually helped us ensure that our processes are, continuously correct. There's no slacking off because that document might be required. And I'll round up with another funny story, because they're really funny. This one didn't happen to me, but it happened to one of my business partners. And it was some years ago as well, and they made a payment to a law firm, if I remember correctly, in the UK. And then they got an email a few days later asking that they'd like to know why they received pounds from a lingerie company. So he literally had to call the BBC and then get the certificate of incorporation for Something Panties Limited. I kid you not. Had to get the CEO, the names of all the directors. And shockingly, I mean, kudos to the BBC, they actually provided all the information and the payment was eventually accepted. But, who wants to have that conversation? Why are you receiving money from pants salad? No one wants to have that conversation.
For Anthony, compliance is a big thing for you, and we discussed. I think one of the aspects of it people don't see is you actually also have to turn businesses down. And as a business, because you're trying to protect yourself. So how do you handle the turning businesses down because you're trying as much as possible to be a compliant business?
Another very good question. So basically, when we work with all these banks that are allowing us to do what we do easily, we actually want to go beyond and above. Number one, we are African solution problem software. They see Africa as red flag straight away. You said you're dealing with an African country, no thank you. Now you say you're solving the problem for Nigeria business. it's like that's not even red anymore. That's like red. So ultimately, there's no way you can actually solve the problem without being compliant. So what we tend to do is, even after onboarding the clients, we have what we built in-house transaction monitoring and screening process. And some of them is even behavioral. So if you're a client that comes to us today and you say, I'm going to be sending $1 million a month, and tomorrow you do 10 million, yes, we're happy for you, but why have you gone from 1 million to 10 million within a day? So our compliance will come to you, asking you questions, they want to know what's going on, they want to know it's genuine, and everything like that, to support you so that when we make our payments, no one is calling and saying the money is dead or giving the money back. So for us, we have to turn some customer away. Some of them, even before they start using us, they will go through the whole thing. You see the paperwork, you can tell something is just not right. And they're not happy. And you probably see some of them go online saying, oh, why you guys not allowing me to use you? And the answer is that we want you to be a customer, but you have to do the right thing. Some customers, after a few transactions, you see that behavior change, or you ask for invoice, they cannot provide the invoice. We have a system in place that we can tell if your invoice is fake. So people send invoice, they think, oh, let me just send in anything. But we can tell that you just doctor that invoice quickly. So we're going to reject the payment and we will send that money back to you as soon as we can. So ultimately, if people don't follow the rules, the terms and conditions, we don't want you affecting Verto because you don't want to be the right person and basically making the solution worse for everyone else that actually need us. So we've turned a lot of business away, even this year alone. Some of them are good businesses, kind of like revenue generating, but they're not good business for Verto. And that's ultimately what Verto does. We're not here to make a quick buck and run away. We're here to actually solve the problem in long term.
Stop here again and take the question.
Thank you for that, Anthony. And I can imagine as an FCA regulated entity, to your point, right, the compliance side comes almost above everything else. But at the same time, you're a VC-backed high-growth company. How do you deal with that inherent conflict when it comes to hiring people and incentivizing people on both sides?
Like, very good. I think hopefully should answer the question. Maybe every quarter, like, why is this going and that's not going? So ultimately, like, we need to grow fast as a company to do what we do successfully to get market share. You can't go through slow because other people will come in, they will eat from your pie and so on, right? But at the same time, like you said, if we lose the license while trying to grow fast, that's the end of business. So it's a balance between finding the right market fit. So for example, in the UK, where we are so strong when it comes to all our solutions, we can literally grow as quickly as we want to. The issue is that we don't want to really solve the UK problem. There's so many people doing it, so the price is actually really small. And you have to spend a lot of money in acquiring a customer for something so small. Come to Africa, come to Nigeria, the problem is huge and no one is really solving it. So again, we can grow really fast in Nigeria by not doing what we should be doing. But as my guy just said earlier, it's kind of like can just pull the plug like for no reason, and that's it, you have to the market. So for us, it's all about how do we ensure what we do is compliant, but at the same time, we can grow quickly. So find the right type of customers, maybe the right vertical that 90% of the time they're always compliant, and double that on that, then move to the next one and the next one. Rather trying to just solve for every single person, which was how we started, to be honest. We're industry agnostic, we help everyone. That's good, but you can't go that quickly without being focused.
Yeah, and I can also add a bit, it's all about balance. Especially with VCs, being as transparent as possible, because if you're a VC and you're investing in emerging markets, and the investors here will tell you, you already know what's available on the ground and the restrictions that businesses already have. And so when you know, especially fintech in general, even FX, probably the most regulated sector across the continent. So it's more about understanding, and I think one of the things Verto does very well is they have a risk profile. So you know, if I want to grow with my little or medium, I'll take a bit of risk, but as soon as customer isn't good, one of the things they also do is they pull back. They actually have to, you actually offboard customers as well, don't you? But they also offboard, and like he said, the question we ask every day when we get to a board call or board meeting is, why did this go down? And then he shows you it's compliance. So, and VCs are also very conscious of what their public image is. We don't want to be the VC with the name of the startup that was just revoked by, that the license was just revoked by the CBN or whatever. So we're also, as much as possible, trying to push the startup, but still you want them to stay within the lines. So it's all about balance. Any other questions from the audience?
I'll just also say as well for us that it's actually one of the things that gives us a lot of confidence using Verto, in that when we get these emails asking for more details on a transaction or for more backup documentation, it's annoying, yes, but it also gives us confidence that we know we're dealing with a company that's doing things the right way and doing things properly.
Add to that?
No, it's spot on.
Any other questions from the audience? So I think we're talking a lot about getting money out of the country, and we mostly mentioned hard currencies. And one of the questions that came up was on PAP. So do you do any business with African countries? How did you used to trade before? So is this Naira with Kenyan shillings or South African rand? How has that changed with Verto?
Before he answers, I can answer. I've used Verto for trades to Ghana. So yeah, they also do Africa. Well, at least Ghana. So.
Yeah, so Bluechip is in Kenya, DRC, Ghana, Zambia, South Africa. And I know one of the things that I had to speak with, and then now also in Ireland. So it was very, very comforting when I could open up a bank account for our Irish entity on Verto, right? And those payments then go from the Irish bank account to the customers directly. So, and I can receive payments also into that bank account from different suppliers. So for a business that is going Pan-African, we definitely need a partner like Verto in that job.
Yeah, I think they already answered. So one of the things that we do differently from probably most of our startup or companies that does FX is we don't have a base currency. I think Peter mentioned that earlier. So what that really means is that we don't care which currency you want to convert from. We will always give you the tool as long as it's part of the 50 currency that we offer today. It used to be 51, no more rupees. So ultimately, what that does is like as a business, like before or even if you don't use Verto, you have to pay to suppliers in South Africa. You literally would need to find dollar first, even though you know you're paying in rand. You know if you think about rand in the first leg, then you go around call your malam, get the dollar, then it's like, oh, what's the next malam that can give in rand? And so the process can take you days to weeks or months before you actually get that. You have to make the payments. On Verto, click a button, Naira, to rand, we give you a price. You accept the price, send us Naira, tell us where your rand is going to when it gets there, a day or 2 months. So that is literally the comfort of the solution. So it's not even about pricing anymore, it's about convenience. It's about knowing that, okay, if I keep doing this, no one's going to knock on my door or does it actually work. And fortunately for us, it does work. So,
Both of them made interesting points, and they've brought to mind some use cases for us. So it happens quite a bit that we've made an order for a supplier, and for whatever reason, they're not able to meet the entire order, and so they need to do a refund. In years past, what we would then do is just, okay, you're typically one of our regular suppliers, just keep the money on account, because if you have to transfer it back to Nigeria, that's a whole long story. But with Verto, of course, now because you have the virtual IBANs, suppliers, when there's an excess, we just transfer it to our Verto account. Why that's interesting, the second leg of it is, let's say I get euros back, but I need to then make a payment in sterling. Now in Nigeria, I would first have to go euro, naira, dollar, sterling. You literally have to do, that's 2 legs or 3 legs, and you're going to lose value at each leg. But with Verto, because they're currency agnostic, I can literally go from euros straight to sterling. And I've checked, trust me, there's no payment solution you can mention, I've tried it. And the rates at Verto for those kind of transactions are actually fairly good. They're really good, in fact, for like sterling, euro, dollar, sterling, dollar, pounds, those kind of transactions. They're decent, they're very good. So I found that to be very useful for us.
Any questions from the audience?
And any suggestions? Any problems?
Plenty of problems. I don't know what to ask you.
Akinbo, what else would you like to see, not just from Verto, but as a business that will continue to trade globally, what else would you like to see from cross-border?
Speed is one, to be fair. And Verto is fast. I would say on average it's 24 hours for payments. If that could be brought down, that would be nice. But to be fair, for 99% of our payments, the 24-hour time frame is perfectly fine. I don't even think we've actually had anyone complain. It's usually only a problem when a payment's on Friday, and then they're waiting over to Monday, which funny enough we had this morning. But yeah, that's one run. The other suggestion I'd have for Verto, and I've made this suggestion like every year for the last 5 years. I don't know why. Is transaction histories. So if you're on the platform, the transaction histories, if you're doing 1 or 2 trades, it's very easy to find out which transaction is for who. But we literally do hundreds of transactions, hundreds of payments. So if I need to find out, $85,000, who did we pay? If I on the platform, I can see the $85,000, then I see EN blah 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 blah. And then when I click it, it just says, transfer made on this day. Who did I pay? I don't want to have to go and get my accountant to then go and get out some figure from somewhere. And it's like, just tell me who I paid. That's my one request.
That's something that we're actually solving for. So part of the roadmap now shows you moving right, but it's not on solution. So.
Okay, mine is a suggestion on the P2P. Have you considered maybe having the participants, maybe form their wallets, right? Like if I want to sell my dollar, I have the dollar in the account, and probably the guy that wants to sell the USD has this USD in the account. You could just try and make it instant. Because the money is already in the platform. Right now it's in the platform, and the other guy's dollar is in your platform. You could actually try to make it instant, because the few times I've used that P2P, trust me, it's not a good experience. It takes a lot of time because you have to wait for me to transfer, you confirm, the other guy has to transfer, you confirm before you get to it. Yeah.
So P2P basically is the marketplace solution that we have where businesses on our platform can actually just trade with each other. So you don't need to buy coins for Verto. You can pull your price on the marketplace. I want to sell $1 million. I want this price in Naira, and somebody will bid. So the idea for that came from almost like typical trading floor. What we've kind of figured out right now is not every businesses are sophisticated or want to be trading. Like you say, you want to put price in, you want your offer currency, you're not spending time waiting for someone to click a button, right? That is going to change. So in the past, because we don't always want to almost compulsory our clients to send money before they put a trade, it means that even you might have money in your wallet, the other guy must still need to send the money because of that flexibility. But we're going to change that. So if you're going to do a P2P, you must have money in your wallet. So as soon as you put your in and someone accepts it, transaction happen. And that's a wallet to wallet. Like you said, it's instant. It's just the time that it takes for that person to send it, it's always that delays it. So hopefully by November, you should see that change.
Any other comments from the audience?
I think forward-looking future future case for Verto, right? For me, we'll be thinking around the after and cross-Africa trade. I'm not sure how many people have tried to pay someone in Benin Republic before, right? Or even a country even like Senegal, right? That's close enough to you, but so far away financially. And obviously, as Verto scales across each of these regions, right? I think there is a huge opportunity around Africa trade that's not happening, and how difficult it is to do it right now. Yes, perhaps would solve some of that problem, but I think interestingly, fintechs would have a huge role to play in that. And I think secondly would be, I think we've seen a lot of startups today, especially on the B2C side, build on crypto rails and blockchain to be able to provide near instant settlement, right? From sender to receiver. I know I'm not sure what the plans are that you guys have along those lines, but I mean, as you grow and as the needs of the customers become more sophisticated, it will get to a point where you can build on that today, right? I know you're still a regulated entity, so there's some constraints in doing that, but I believe that in the next couple of years, in terms of future roadmap, building on crypto rails and blockchain would be where I think you would be. I hope I'm correct.
I mean, that is the future when it comes to payments in general. Like you said, the only issue today is if you were to do it, we always going to be doing illegally or non-regulated. And that will affect our regulated license, which is why we don't do it. One solution that we are very excited about is actually stablecoin, so rather than just cryptocurrency. So CBDC, which is mostly the central bank stablecoin or the one that pay one-to-one. We're actually excited about that solution because you can still do the same transfer in real time and it's faster. So for us, the stablecoin is just another currency. It's not affecting what we do today. You literally can start offering tomorrow if you want to. But ultimately, it's definitely not on the roadmap. When, I cannot tell you right now, but hopefully very soon.
Yeah, I'll come back to you. Parting comments just for the audience, but if there's anything else you want to add about the growth of Verto. Anything you want to add about the growth of Verto?
Well, Let me repeat the same thing again. Basically, like Verto, we've been around for 4 years. For people that have maybe joined us a bit later, everything that we've done today has been very methodical. We wanted to do it the right way, and to an extent, we need the support of even some of the clients to help us grow. So I give us feedback, like you just did, tell us what we're not doing well, what we can improve. But ultimately, we are here to solve African problem. We're not going anywhere. So in the next 2 or 3 years, you guys watch out. Like, we're here to stay, and we're here to solve the problem. So let's go.
Thank you very much, Akinbo, Olumide, Kofoworola. Please a round of applause for them as they go back to take their seats. I want to put Anthony on the hot seat and just ask if we've been asking too many serious questions, P2P, B2B, X to X, Y to Y. So I just want to ask a very fun question. How did you come about the name Verto?
That's a good one. So the backstory was that, like I said earlier, we started with just FX, which is foreign exchange. And the idea of FX was, what do? You want to have 2 people to swap FX. So we play with the name of swap FX, and that sounds good. Exchange FX, have like 10 companies with that name with different over the company. And at the same time, for me, it's all about branding as well. So swap FX, and you put yourself swap later on? Not really. So I started building different name that is into swap. And swap is actually a Latin word for Verto. So that's why we said Verto FX. And to be fair, initially, I didn't want to put FX in there, it wanted to be Verto, which is the branding side of it. But there was a company that already had Verto as a URL. So we thought, let's start with FX because that's what we're doing. When we do payment, we Verto payment, we Verto this and that. So now we just Verto, which is basically swap.
All right, good. Round of applause. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Okay.